What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna introduce why we're doing this.
Yep.
And then explain what happened to PMRI and what, what it means for here.
Yep.
And going forward. And then you do, because what you did was the drivers of that 21% increase.
Yep.
And then I'll come in and do the property tax, the revenue section, and then the capital budget, and then at the very end, after, well, let's see, after the total appropriations, then I do the combinations of debts, the rest of the stuff.
First, I
Okay.
think we should call the meeting to order.
Yeah, we will. But
Okay.
I was just,
Okay,
Yeah, I was
perfect.
asking her.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, they're ready.
they're ready.
They're straight.
All right, so. Although it was technical difficulties, shall we say, but this informational public hearing on the fiscal year 26 budget and fire department budget review is now open. And basically, this is a required informational hearing when you have an Australian ballot vote on the budget, on any item, actually. And this is the first official Australian ballot budget vote since the taxpayers or the townspeople who were at town meeting last year voted to go to Australian ballot outside of COVID. And what happened, but at the same time, people were also voting to have a town meeting reimagined to not lose the community connectivity. And so the select board got together a final draft in preparation for the town meeting reimagined. And as it provided a larger venue than just a select board meeting, people were able to talk about the budget and amend the budget based on the select board's feeling that this was if this was what we wanted to do. If it was egregious, the select board does not have to accept it because we have to do right by the rest of the taxpayers. But in this case, there was just a few small changes. And so to start the discussion on the fiscal year budget, we'll go to Eric Johnson, who will talk about the drivers behind the changes.
Thanks. You didn't get that chart, right, Paula?
I did not.
Okay, so I'll steal the share just for
Okay,
1 second.
yep, absolutely. Let me just stop share. Okay, go ahead.
So if you look at the primary drivers of the increase, it's important to remember that the chart I'm showing is just a really rudimentary graph. It's not as fancy as the one we were able to show at town meeting reimagined because I didn't quite have time for the artfulness that went into the last one. But this is about the increase. This isn't the percentage of the budget. This is the percentage of the budget increase. So looking at this chart, it shows that 52% of this increase was from the bond for the new town garage, which was voted on by the taxpayers, by the voters last year. That makes up 52% of the increase. The next biggest section there in orange is roads. And for that, because last year we knew we were going to be getting a very high increase in the educational tax, the town worked really hard to reel in our spending on roads. And we were also down a road foreman and down some road crew, and we weren't in the best position to do a lot of road projects. So for one time only, last year, we reduced our road budget. This year, that budget is going back in. So that's why it looks like an increase. If you really think about it, it's not an increase. It was just a 1-year decrease. But this is pretty level funded for all the previous years. Then 9% of that is for benefits. Benefits are up everywhere. That's not really a big secret. And then the 5% was the motion that was made at TMRI that Catherine just mentioned. There was a motion on the floor that was supported by a vote to add $30,000 for a very specific purpose of speed control throughout the town. And that discussion is available on TMRI. the TMRI video if people want to watch that. That's just a really quick high level of what makes up the biggest increases in our budget.
Thank you, Eric. I'm going to talk about the revenue. Wait till it comes up. There it is. And then, so we're at, based on the budget, we expect, our intent is to, it all depends on the grand list and what it ends up being, but we're budgeting $3,608,711 for general tax revenue. That's the property tax for the town. This is an increase of $628,812 from the year, from budget to 2025. And Eric just explained what the changes are. As you can see, we're not expecting much change in interest and penalties and interest. In fact, there's zero change. Intergovernmental, these are all small grants. Our larger grants are paired at the end with the actual project with those grants as a way to show exactly what the grant is, what our match is, and what the project is. Licenses and fines, again, the budget is the same as fiscal year 2025. And there is an increase in the interest on checking because there was still some ARPA funding that got interest. And so that was an increase of $7,500. So our total revenues are expected to be $4,091,311. And now we go to expenditures.
So I'll start off with expenditures. We're gonna start with the town treasurer. Not a lot of change in this section. Biggest change was for benefit changes, and that change is just because different plans, different staffing can drive benefit changes. If you go down to the next section, administrator and select board, you'll see some changes there. One of the biggest reasons for the change is we did a little bit of moving around of staff, and really it's just a matter of moving around staff as far as where their budget falls. There was a part-time worker for the town clerk that is spending more of her time assisting the town administrator now. And so we just moved some of that salary to that line. You'll notice a drop when we get down to that section. Again, benefits, a very large increase there. And that is just because different people with different plans, depending on who's staffing those positions. Most everything else in this section is pretty non-existent changes there. Town clerk, you'll see that change from lowered by 14% there. That is because of the thing that I previously mentioned. No other major changes under town clerk. Listing, you'll see the salaries went up a little bit for listing. We have a part-time staffer that we're expecting to use more hours because of the reassessment that will be going on during this budget period. So just more hours there. No changes to the health office, minimal changes to planning and zoning. Highways and bridges are the next large portion of our town budget, as always. You'll see salaries and overtime went down a little bit there. And I just want to explain to people listening the reason that went down. The reason it went down is because we're budgeting for what we've been able to staff. Our full staff, we consider to be 6 highway people. I've been a select board member for over 4 years now. We've never had a full staff. And so we tried to have the budget be reflective of what we expect to happen. That's not saying that we absolutely wouldn't hire 6, but we literally have not been able to quite stay at that level due to retirements and job changes and this and that. And sometimes it's hard to find plow folks. So we did budget. We didn't remove a whole person. We removed we removed removed a full-time person and added a part-time person back, really just to try to make the budget correct. It's not really a statement about what we're intending to do, more about what we have been doing, and we didn't want to charge for stuff that we haven't been able to spend. Benefits, very similar story there. And then down here on that line 165, you'll see that piece that I spoke to earlier, where we went to $100,000 in 2025 budget, and we changed that back to 295 as it had been in previous budgets. So that's the bulk of the change in this section for sure, and obviously a big part of the entire change as well. One thing I didn't think, Paula, is where did we add? Maybe if I look at your screen, again, I don't know where we added the 30,000. Did that add to that section, or is it a?
Nope, it's coming up.
Okay. So that 30,000 that I mentioned earlier that was added at TMRI is elsewhere in the budget, and I apologize, I don't know off the top of my head exactly where that landed. That's it for highways and bridges. This is a public hearing. Am I asking for questions, or am I just rattling off?
If somebody has a question, we do accept it.
Okay.
Because it is an informational meeting
Okay.
for people to vote on Australian ballot.
Yeah, just some of them are like, we just talk, and some of them are not, so I just wasn't sure.
Right.
I don't see any questions up, so I'm going to, I think that's the end of mine. I turn it over to Peter for summer rec.
Okay, so summer rec, it's a little bit weird in the way the budget's laid out, but on 177, that's actually income. $175,000 is collected from recreation fees, and so that offsets a big chunk of these expenses down below. Salaries are up 20%, and that's largely because the rec department is seeing a lot of use and needed extra staff to staff the program. Insurance is largely unchanged. Public health and safety, that's what you'll see on line 193, the new line of traffic calming initiative for $30,000, and we still need to determine what that's gonna look like and how we're planning on using that in the best way possible. Police services, I didn't get to go home. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we've transitioned away from Vermont State Police, which are more expensive, and are using sheriffs instead. And I think we contracted for 50 hours a week of sheriff coverage throughout town.
And the reasoning was not just because they were more expensive, they were also often unavailable.
Right.
Like they could give us like
Right.
8 hours a week as available, and they
Right.
often weren't, so people wanted more consistent coverage, so we.
And that's strictly for speeding, if there is
And
actual.
speeding, right?
Right, they'll
Murders, they still cover.
Right, murders are completely covered.
Yeah.
Or even theft.
So that's public health and safety, building, property and maintenance, and I'm drawing a complete blank on this. There aren't a lot of changes here. The biggest change is under sidewalk construction planning. We're at maintenance, sorry. Maintenance is up, and that's because the gentleman who does the sidewalks has not raised his fees in many years, and just the cost of doing business has gone up, so he increased his bid a little bit. So that's buildings and property maintenance. Conservation and public use is largely unchanged. Town Center Library, the salary is up a little bit in an effort to stay competitive with our pay structure for the town librarian at Town Center. And then the next section, well, are there any questions on that section there before I go to appropriations?
I don't see anybody.
Okay. So the next section is appropriations, which are there's a section that's mandated that we have to pay, and a section that's non-mandated. In the mandated section, those are all essentially organizations that we pay money into because they provide services to either the select board or the town of Jericho. And then non-mandated are sort of NGO, are non-governmental, I think exclusively nonprofits who serve people of Jericho in different ways. And so those are the money they requested. The biggest change there is the Chittenden unit on special investigations. which is up just about double this year. And if you look back a little farther on previous years, you'll see that for the past several years, it's been more like $8,000 or $9,000. And last year was dropped significantly, which was, they had a change in leadership, and I think they made a mistake in their requests. And so this is, rather than seeing this as a huge increase, I see this similar to Eric's statement earlier about it's sort of getting back to the baseline where we were in terms of what we were giving, the Chittenden Unit on Special Investigations. And they, just for information, they are a Chittenden County-wide unit that investigates and deals with child sexual abuse. That's sort of it. The other piece is the Jericho Food Hub. Has, I believe this is true, if I'm speaking incorrectly, jump in, please, Catherine, Eric. The Jericho Food Hub in the past has come to the select board.
No, it's the, not the Food Hub. Food Hub is new, asking for money. It is the, where is they have
Farmers, no,
Transition Town Jericho.
transition to, the kids' garden.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
where
they,
is that? Oh, okay,
That's-
Tradition Town Jericho, yep, so line 238.
yeah.
They've asked for $1,100 for the first time, and that is because they come to us each year and ask us to give them money throughout the year, and we ask them to just put it in the line item as a budget, because it's been an ongoing budget item that we support.
Right.
And then net outlay, is that still me? Am I net outlay, or are you, Catherine?
Oh, either one of us could do it. I mean, I could do, I did it, for DRMRI.
Okay, great, take it away. Unless there are any questions for me about the appropriation section.
But what, this section has begun new for the last, well, it's no longer new, because this is a way of putting actually the cost of something and the, or the proceeds from a grant against what, is purchased. And the first one you can see, we've added, the purchase cost of heavy equipment is gonna be $256,000, that's balanced by loans for that. Same way, all the, and the next jump is Bridge 15, which is the one down by the town garage. It's going to be rebuilt in its entirety this year. And you'll see it looks like a big scary number, $265,275. That's actually the grant income that we will get from V-Trans and the cost of building that bridge. And the total replacement cost is $2,384,500. That represents our 5% match, which is $119,225. The next big item is Old Pump Bridge. It's expected to cost us about $150,000, of which we were hoping for a structures grant of $120,000. And that will cover it. Otherwise, we have our own match. And then the wastewater initiative, these things you also see on the capital budget. And we put in $100,000 for a wastewater initiative, and the funding's coming from the general fund balance rather than the new taxpayer dollars. The Riverside sidewalk is going to construction in the fiscal year 25-26. And it's going to cost $750,000, $600,000 is a grant. We have a 20% match of $150,000. There's going to be work on the MMU Browns Trace Path expense, and that's $50,000 for 2026, of which $40,000 is covered by a grant. Debt service, this covers all the debt we have, which is on the trucks and on the old bond that is for the town hall, which is in its last few years. And it also, now you'll see is that's the interest is $31,259. You also see the maintenance facility assessment. That's brand new for this year. As Eric explained, that's a big driver of the increase in the taxpayer, tax dollars needed. And that was voted on last year, and that'll be about $303,195. So our total principal payments will be $207,613 for a total debt service of $542,067. And then for a quickie what we also do is there are other collections and remittances, and this includes the entities that are already millage on the people have voted for. as well as the Deborah Rawson Library, which has its own annual meeting, and the Underhill Jericho Fire Department. And the fire department will talk about its own budget, but that total collections are $848,802, of which we remit out $848,802. And then if you want to look at the capital budget, you'll see the new maintenance facility is $4,645,792. The bond is about 44,100,000, as I said before, but 500,000 is coming from ARPA funding. Wastewater initiative, that is the $100,000 that's going to be paid out of general funds. And that will be used to move forward preliminary engineering with DuBois and King, establish committee governance structures, research funding opportunities, and fund a few service agreements with the CCRPC to provide project management to begin wastewater discussion for Riverside. Road, we have the 295,000 for road improvement, which is what Eric talked about. Heavy equipment, we're going to purchase a new heavy duty pickup, a sander with a sander and a plow. We have we need a new loader. Well, actually, we need a new backhoe, and that's $143,900. And other equipment is $30,000. That was a loader that we purchased in fiscal year 25. And as you can see again, the Riverside sidewalk is $750,000. So total project costs are going to be $8,611,906. The main proceeds for the bond is $4,145,792, as again, the $500,000 from ARPA. The general fund for the wastewater, state, federal, and other grants are $2,985,275. We're going to transfer from various reserve funds for sidewalks and roads, $249,225. Road impact fees, $50,000, and a loan that's for the heavy equipment of $256,614. And operating funds are raised by taxes, which will be $325,000. Those are matches that we'll be using. That's $8,611,906 as well. And that's a very quick zoom through of the fiscal year 2026 budget. And now we will also see on the Australian ballot, as we've had in town meeting for the last 3 years, the Underhill Jericho Fire Department's presentation, and we thank Matt Champlin for doing this.
Hi, yes, Honorary Chief Matt Champlin, with the Underhill Jericho Fire Department. With me tonight is Chief Todd Fisher. So quickly to run through the fire department's budget request. Our budget is going up 8% this year. However, the request from the taxpayers is going down by 1% due to the transfer of reserve funds that we're using to offset the expenses for the fire department. We're going to use $128,503 from our reserve account, $88,000 which comes from the capital reserve, and then since we were under budget last year, we are going to use $40,000 of that under budget to offset the income needed from the towns. We are asking for an increase in benefits this year. The only benefits we offer our full-time staff are medical. We are asking to start to offer vision and dental similar to what the towns offer to our full-time staff. We've had a very difficult time retaining full-time staff, and we're hoping that this slight help with benefits will encourage them to stay a little bit longer. The insurance estimates, the insurance costs that you see here are estimates from our insurance carrier. She estimates those in October and November for us for policies in 2025, and those are the best guess. She recommended 10% increases on the premiums due to cost pressures in the insurance industry. We did raise utilities based upon announced rate increases from both Green Mountain Power, Vermont Electric Co-op, and Vermont Gas that we expect to have come. We did increase our vehicle maintenance based upon previous year's spending. We have several trucks that are past their expected lifetime. And part of that is because we can't get new trucks. We've got trucks on order, but their delivery time is just years beyond what we would have
Am I
expected.
paused?
Sorry, I just noticed you're sharing that. Yeah, why didn't it say paused?
Hold on, let me just,
Yeah,
Let me start
just
the whole
share it
share.
again, yeah, there you go. That would work.
is that better?
It's thinking about it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, Matt.
No worries.
You started.
Yeah, no.
No, don't. Keep going.
Yeah.
So sorry.
That's okay.
Okay,
So,
continue.
so again, we've had to do some corrosion repairs on trucks, patching of frames and things like that. So unexpected expenses there. So we have increased that a little bit. Good news is one of the new trucks that we ordered is currently sitting in St. Albans at the dealer, getting their part done. And we are expecting the commitment date that we've received from E1 on the new engine is the end of 2025. So November, December timeframe
Wow.
to get that truck into Vermont. So those would be good. That's good news for us.
When you say new engine, do you mean a whole new engine truck or you mean an engine?
No, and the whole truck.
The whole truck,
yeah,
okay, great.
Yeah,
Brand new, like a brand new truck.
brand new. Yeah,
It's very
What-
exciting.
so
We've
what's
been
in-
waiting a long
I
time.
missed what's in St. Albans?
our new squad truck.
Oh, different from the one coming in December?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So that's very exciting.
yeah, it is. We're excited.
Now, I forget, do select board members get first right?
I don't know, you have to ask the chief.
Yeah, I guess.
I think sit back from St. Albans.
Yeah, right, I can do that.
So the next few line items, firefighter safety equipment, EMS supplies, have gone up just based upon inflationary price increases from our vendors that we use. We don't have a single vendor for anything that we buy. Typically, if we have to go buy something, we shop around. There are several different suppliers to what we purchase. We do have a standard for what we purchase, but there's several different suppliers, and every time we need something, we go shop around. So it's nobody is a sole source for us. Physicals, we've reduced the cost of physicals. That's just based upon feedback from our medical supplier and the number of people that are needing a physical now. So we're able to drop that back. The cost went up, but they set who gets a physical and who doesn't. And we have a lower number, so we dropped that.
And that's for all volunteers need that, or is it
So
just-
the OSHA standard requires medical clearance to do firefighting.
Okay,
And the OSHA standard says that we have to have a doctor that determines who needs a physical when.
gotcha,
Not having a doctor on staff, obviously.
right.
If any doctors out there that
We'll
live in Underhill, Jericho, would love to volunteer,
Step up.
we'd be happy to have that. Yeah, so the doctor looks, we use Champlain Medical, the doctors there look at previous health history, age, those sorts of things. Some people are at a point where they have to have a physical every year. Other members of the department are every 3 or 4 years, depending upon where they're at.
Age
So,
and health and all.
yeah. So the doctor decides who needs what when. We're not transferring any money to capital reserves this year, as this year starts a long process of drawing down our capital reserve plan. Over the next 8 to 10 years, we actually get down to having just a couple $1,000s left in that plan if we continue to do everything per the capital plan. So for a number of years, it's been built up, but now we're going to reverse that trend and draw it down. And then the last line item of the budget, that $15,000, our stations are both old. The Jericho Center station needs some repairs. The Underhill station has things, the HVAC system, the heat and cooling system. One of the two is original equipment to the building, 25+ years old. We want to upgrade those for a couple of reasons. A, it's getting old, B, we'll be able to go get some more modern, energy efficient equipment that hopefully will help us with utility bills moving forward. And then, capital plans, we're not really planning on, the capital plan purchase of $10,000 this year is, we do plan to purchase, in this budget, new portable radios, and pagers. Our radios, have hit, end of life. While you can still find parts from aftermarket suppliers, Motorola doesn't carry parts and offer repairs anymore, so. Good news is we have put in for a Fire Act grant to do that for the radios. The Fire Act does have timelines on things, and our capital plan corresponds with the timelines that they have. So the last round of radios we had that we had currently have was purchased with a grant. So it would be nice to have the problem that we have capital allocated that we don't spend
Right.
because we got the grant. We would use some of the capital funding to do the match, but then the rest of it, we would have to figure out how we return that back. So anyway, there's that. And then we have some loan payments on various equipment. The capital plan was, we did have to revise the capital plan significantly because we didn't want to, two things. We had to buy for the new apparatus that we're getting, we had to buy the chassis separate from the body. So we couldn't buy the package. So the chassis came in, so we had to pay for the chassis. And what we did is rather than getting short-term loans from the bank or something like that, we borrowed from our own capital reserve, paid for the chassis. When we go get the loans for the rest of the truck, we are going to get the loan for the full amount that we had originally anticipated and pay the capital plan back. So the capital plan will be whole. We haven't lost anything there. But we had to move the timing of those around. So it's kind of messed up the capital plan a little bit, and we have to pay some money back and those sorts of things. But overall, we're in good shape with the capital plan. Everything that we need to have in the coming years is in the capital plan and can be funded. One of the things that we have to talk about is getting approval. I think the next truck we want to buy is 6 years out, and we ought to have conversation next year about getting authorization to actually order that truck well ahead. So when we need it, it shows up. And right now we're hearing 4 and 5 year lead times. So, those are things that we're gonna have to talk about doing ahead of time.
Is that gonna be a budgeting issue where you have to ask for money you don't actually need for 5 years?
Well,
you
so-
can name it.
So I think that's what we have to do is we have to talk about how that plays out in the capital plan. And my thought is that we would have I don't know how you would do it or word it, but some sort of binding agreement that capital plan is approved, but we don't get the money until we actually need it. I'd rather, because then that's really gonna mess up the budget.
Right.
Right. I think we ought to talk about how we could do that.
Structure it.
Maybe, we would need some legal assistance to figure out how to make that happen. But I think
Or
that,
accountant probably do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, so how do we could certainly pull that in earlier and start collecting the money and stick it in a reserve account. Maybe the thing to do is to have the town set the reserve account up and you guys keep the money. And then when the time comes, it transfers to either. So
I was
again,
wondering if it almost belongs on our capital budget, right? So like, 'cause we know, people want to see it forecasted out. If we know this thing's
We know it's
coming.
coming and we're
Yeah.
budgeting,
Probably
What-
they're gonna ask us for money at some point coming up.
Right.
whatever we do, we gotta do with both towns.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So again, I don't wanna derail, but that's just something that we have to
Interesting,
consider,
yeah.
because what we've always been able to do is we order the truck right at the start of a fiscal year, we get it within 12 months, we pay for it in the same fiscal year, we're good. That is no longer the
Days
case.
are over.
Yeah, those days are over. Those days won't be back.
You're even talking 4 and 5 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
Yeah.
town trucks are out at least 2 years,
At least
2 to
2
3
years,
years.
chassis are 18 to 24 months and they can't start to build the truck until they have the chassis.
Hmm.
And then it's, 2 to 3 year lead time to build the truck. The two chassis that we have, one of the chassis that's in St. Albans now, so the truck body, has been sitting in Florida for a year and a half,
Just waiting.
just waiting. So they couldn't fit us in the production schedule.
Mm.
So, you know, we're paying a bunch of loans for stuff that we've previously purchased at this point. But really the only new purchase is the radios.
So on line 32, capital loan payments.
Yep.
Which is up about a little more than $100,000. What is that? What's the differential there? What's the 104?
See. So capital loan payments,
Oh, yeah.
we're gonna
That's-
have the final payment on our thermal imaging camera, which is $9,900. We're gonna have the second of 3 payments on the structural firefighting gear, which is $17,000. It'll be the first installment on our on the loan for our battery powered extrication tools, which is $10,000. The 6th installment of the loan for engine 2, which sits up in the Jericho station on Browns Trace. So the biggest piece here is the first installment on the squad loan, which is $72,000. And the first installment of the loan for the new engine, which is $125,000. So there's, you know, $200,000 increase, first year payments. Now, other loan payments have dropped off,
Right.
right? But it's $200,000 for the 2 new apparatus. We had not intended for those apparatus to be the same, starting the same year.
Yep.
Those should have been offset, but due to delivery dates, we're just where we're at. So that's the change.
If not,
Any other questions online?
Are there any questions
No,
before you leave?
Don't
This is
leave.
sad. But, Matt Champlin was recognized for his years of service as chief at a special dinner on Saturday, February 15th. I was scheduled to attend, but on the 14th, I determined that I would not be able to do so. And there was consideration of Zoom, so I could say a few words there if possible. Unfortunately, that was not able to happen. So this is not, you know, a really nice event space with, you know, dinner and everything else. The town of Jericho still wants to honor and celebrate the 10-year promotion to honorary chief of Matt Champlin. Jericho, not, you know, people are well aware, Jericho occasionally had a difficult relationship with the UJFD. However, early in my tenure as a select board member, the meeting of the chief and assistants with the select board member and the town administrator began to discuss the budget. Admittedly, I asked a lot of questions and pushed to reduce costs wherever possible. However, Matt was good at answering these questions, explaining what could and could not be cut. Over time, we developed a good working relationship. When looking at total cost to the community, it also can be difficult to translate to your own tax bill what the fire department budget for Jericho means. Matt kept emphasizing over time that working toward and achieving a lower ISO rating could reduce your insurance bill. So when Jericho put the UJFD as a separate line item on the tax bill, taxpayers could see directly the cost of the value provided. Rather than have the select board discuss the UJFD budget at the town meeting with any technical questions answered by the department, as a separate item on the morning, Matt stepped up to the plate and presented the budget as well as answered questions. This has been very well received and much appreciated by the public. This has also provided a platform for Matt to explain what it means to become a certified first responding agency and the value of that to the community. And there's many more things we could say, but you know, these were, you know, the big highlights of the time. As chair of the select board, it is my pleasure to thank Matt Champlin for his services as chief and for the changes brought to benefit the community along the way. And on behalf of the board, I want you to accept this. Oh, gosh.
I'll come to you.
This Bentley snowflake.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Much appreciated.
You're welcome. Oh,
It's been a pleasure over the years to work with the town of Jericho. And I never minded the questions to build that understanding. My boss at work always has a saying, it is easier to get people to go along with you if they understand and buy into what you're doing. And that's what I tried to do with the community, is get that buy-in from people and build that understanding, because rightfully so. We are glad when people don't need our services. We're happy that we don't have to go to houses or help people. So sometimes it's hard for people to understand what goes on in the background, so. It's been my pleasure over the last 10 years to serve the town of Jericho and the community members of Jericho. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
You know,
Congratulations, Todd.
Yeah.
The Chief also.
Yeah.
Looking forward to working with you.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Thanks,
appreciate,
Matt.
appreciate the changes that made over the year. I mean, it really has been a good work anyway. I'm sure Todd's just going to continue. He's also a good Jericho resident. Well, we did it in our timeline.
We did it.
This is terrific. So unless there are any questions from the public, this ends the informational public hearing on the FY 26 budget and fire department budget review. And I guess we can go ahead and start the
I say let's roll with it.
Yep,
Jump right in.
go right
regular
ahead.
Meeting.
You have to adjourn that and open a new one, or is that?
Oh,
Yes, we should.
oh, yeah. Motion to adjourn the informational public hearing on the town budget and the fire department budget.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now, we'll open this meeting of this Jericho Select Board at 6:55. And as usual, we start with public to be heard. Is there anybody wishing to speak to, I guess we could read my thing here. Because there are a few people. In an effort to make meetings more effective and efficient, the Select Board has made a change to the public comment portion of the meeting. Citizens or others wishing to address the Select Board during meeting may do so during the public comment portion. All comments will be limited to 2 minutes per speaker. All speakers will be heard before people are given a second opportunity to speak. Once the public comment portion of the meeting is over, the public will be able to speak if the chair determines they're included during another portion of the meeting. And typically, public to be heard, though, to start with, is for items that are not on the agenda. For participants on Zoom, if you have a question, please raise your hand. Please only use the Zoom chat for technical issues such as room audio, or you can't raise your hand or things of that nature. Please do not comment or question in the chat as it is distracting for all. The intent of this policy is not to stifle community input, but rather to allow the Select Board to be more effective and efficient in our work. People are welcome to email the members of the Select Board at any time with feedback and questions. Our email addresses are on the town's website and on the notice on the sign-in page. And now we'll have public to be heard. Is there anybody who wishes to speak to something that is not on the agenda?
I do not see anybody.
Okay. Moving on then, this is to approve the signing of the bond loan agreement for the new town maintenance facility. And all signed documents have to be put to the bond bank by 1 p.m. March 5th, make sure we're there. So this is why it is.
Yes.
Not and when.
Do any of you have any questions regarding that? The bond? There is one page that Catherine, you will need to sign in front of Jessica so she
I
can
saw that.
notarize that one.
Yeah. I
But
thought-
there is the other ones that can be signed by the rest of the board.
Yeah, there's lots of,
Yep,
whereas.
I'll be honest, I didn't read it, but.
And either, what's the interest rate?
uh,
But I
not
just have on
great.
page that Brian's looked at it, people have looked at it.
Brian has looked at it and he's asked, he had a bunch of questions that they did answer. He said he was good with it.
Yeah, in fact, if we use the bond attorney for the process to make
Yep.
sure.
Yes.
We won't know until. it goes out to
Exactly,
bid.
but it doesn't,
Actually happened yet.
exactly.
Oh, I thought.
No, no,
I thought
we-
this was
we have
like
to-
a done-
Nope, you have
No.
to sign that and I have to forward it back to Brian Monahan and Brian
What is
Stevens.
this saying? Who's signing?
This
This
is,
is that we're agreeing to bond for 4,100,000.
Oh, this is agreeing. to
yes,
bond.
yes, exactly.
Who are we agreeing with?
We're gonna send.
Vermont
to the
Bond Bank.
Vermont Bond Bank, so it's the whole
Gotcha.
state.
Okay, yep, I got you.
goes to
So I think it sounds like all we're agreeing to is.
Yes.
Confirm that we are ready to spend.
Yeah,
that money.
exactly.
And Nothing.
Okay, that-
Yep.
thank you very-
And because
It
they,
is silly because we already voted on that.
Right,
But
exactly.
we want it now. We
Right.
don't want it
Right.
now.
well, in fact, they're sending out the facility to bid
Yeah, tomorrow is the deadline.
So,
Oh.
so that's why we need the money, because they're gonna
Start spending it.
start spending it over time.
Yep.
I think you have to sign all of these, and there's only one spot for me to sign.
The first one you'll have to sign in front of Jessica, Catherine, so you'll have to come in maybe
Yeah, this is
Monday
the
or
one.
something to sign,
Yeah,
but then
that's
the,
on that one spot.
Yep.
Yeah, it
and
goes
then
to
she
you.
can,
Okay.
So, do you also want a motion, or is the signatures enough?
Oh, no, we need a
Yep,
motion to
yep.
approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the bond loan agreement for the new town maintenance facility.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 And next is, warn the hearing on the residential density for bylaw modernization agreement on March 20th. And that's they've recently had their meeting, but because there is a timeline that has to be between when they send it over to us, when public hearing is scheduled, we're going to do it from March 20th to right here.
Mhm. Yep,
So we need a motion to
warn that hearing.
Warn the hearing.
Can you just explain to me that paragraph? Or the motion?
Is there any questions online yet?
Nope, I don't see any.
Okay,
The paragraph says the Jericho Select Board is warning a public hearing scheduled for March 20th to consider bylaw amendments to change the residential density per minimum lot area by zoning districts in 4 zones that allow residential use. What does that mean?
they're gonna change the density,
Yeah,
so they can put more things on a unit, like multiplexes. Rather
So
than.
that's,
single.
that's pretty non-specific.
SJ is actually online, so you want to answer that, SJ?
That is the most dense sentence I've ever heard.
That's Chris
No,
Shaheen.
no wonder he's trying to fit everything into one
He
sentence.
is.
It's, you want to read the sentence again, Peter?
Sure, the Jericho Select Board is warning a public hearing scheduled for March 20th to
Yep.
consider bylaw amendments to change the residential density per minimum lot area by zoning districts in 4 zones that allow residential use, enabling most residential uses allowed in each zone to be permitted on a minimum. I think read the whole sentence, that's good, but you know.
Listen, it's not wrong. It's totally accurate, but it's it's a paragraph's worth of information.
Yeah.
So the amendment, and you'll see all of it, and we'll talk about it too, but just so you know, the amendment is to increase currently our residential zoning in all of our districts is 1 single family home or 1 duplex per minimum lot area. So if you're in a village center, that's a 1/4 acre. If you're in rural ag, that's 10 acres. Okay. So the amendment only affects the districts that are identified for potential growth. So that's basically doesn't include the rural ag or forestry, but everything else. So low density residential, village center, and commercial. Those are the 4. We're increasing density from 1 single family dwelling or a duplex to 4 dwelling units per minimum lot area. So you could do those 4 dwelling units in a quad. And that quad is the use that is allowed in all of those village districts. So now you can do all of the kinds of uses that are allowed on a minimum lot area. That makes sense. You don't have to, but you can. So the increase is just an increase. It's basically a doubling up to 4, and it's just in those districts. So it doesn't touch anything that's 10 acres or any of the rural parts of the town.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks,
Does that
SJ.
help? Yep.
Good thing she was here.
The public hearing scheduled for March 20th to consider the bylaw amendment changes.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next on the agenda is approve the bid for Nashville Road FY 25 paving grant to ECI.
Yes, so we do have a paving grant that we got for FY 25. from the state. It's to pave the apron on Nashville Road and go actually a little bit further to Harm's Way.
Yeah, that's
Um,
just a little bit, because that's an area that.
Yeah,
has
kind
been
of,
potholed.
yes.
And
So we put that out to bid. Tyler did all of the paperwork for us, and we had a meeting, a bid opening last week, and we went with ECI for the bid. And it wasn't a very big difference.
No,
Yeah,
Notice that.
it was crazy. It's crazy. Yeah,
that's a good bid.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a good
and-
bidding project.
Yeah, so if you want to give me permission to sign it, or if you want to sign it, that I have the original document here.
I'll make a motion to approve the bid for the Nashville Road apron to ECI.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Someone
Should
will
that bid,
need to
should
sign that.
that motion have included the?
A bid amount.
You could definitely, yeah, you could definitely do that.
And that amount is the exact number.
$91,100.
Yes.
$91,100.
So someone will need, just have Catherine or someone sign, it doesn't matter, either you or,
I'll just stick with all the other things then.
She's better with paper
okay,
than I am.
okay.
All those, in favor- did I say all those? in
Yeah,
favor?
we're good.
So we're good. Okay. All right. Next is approve the bid for the Old Pump Bridge to Letourneau.
Civil construction, yep,
This was a surprise because there's a significant
Triple.
Yeah.
yes.
disparity.
Yes,
It's a
we
huge
were,
difference.
we were hesitant as well, and Tyler went back and confirmed with them again, like, are you sure this is your bid? And they were comfortable with that bid, so,
And I was concerned too because of the disparity between even,
Yes.
the low and the middle.
mhm,
And I thought, but then I read the whole thing and
Yep.
then saw the engineer's report, and Tyler said that they're
Yep.
good, good quality, everybody's happy, it's
yep,
okay,
yep.
so I think.
So this will, we will apply for the state structures grant for this one for FY 26. We won't know if we get it until June, but that's the one where we put in the budget, hoping for a grant.
Yeah.
So
So
that'll
we
need
need
to
a
be
motion.
signed too.
I have a couple quick questions.
Yes.
So, just for my own peace of mind,
Mhm.
so Tyler is saying, yep, Letourneau, I know who
Mhm.
they are and they can do this job. And the bid wasn't a mistake and it's ridiculously low, but
Yep.
they know what the job is and they're gonna do a good job.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Not that- I like to think of it, the bid was not ridiculously low, the others were excessively high.
Right.
Yeah.
Good framing.
Did you sign the other
Yeah,
one
it
too?
says, in fact, is
No.
according to Tyler, it said that he did, because I was concerned too. I
Okay.
did it. And he
Thanks, Eric.
completed the bid check, he checked it, that they submitted a
Eric.
bid. Says they successfully completed several town highway improvement projects, including four of the East Engineering. Which is what I was looking for.
My other question was, so this is for Old Pump Bridge.
Yes,
And we're talking about not physically doing anything until
correct. We'll,
over a year from now.
no, starting in July, fiscal year July is our fiscal year. That's
Is it
FY
25
20.
now?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. Yep.
You have
So
to
that-
keep thinking.
So that budget, so that.
Yes.
Work can begin once the budget's passed.
Yeah, and once we get
July
if
1st.
we get the structures grant, it can begin July 1st. Yep.
How about
And
that?
if we don't, we're still doing it.
We budget.
Yep,
Well, we.
No, we didn't.
kind of. We did,
You're right. we
right,
budgeted assuming-
right, exactly. Yep.
But we'll have to figure out where the money comes from.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yep.
But it clearly, that's what you have to get used to, because the
Yep.
year that you're in is not necessarily.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty complicated.
Especially when you're still in 24.
Right.
Mhm.
You're talking about
25 budget, and you're
26.
talking about the 20.
Right.
So challenging.
So anyway, we need a motion.
I would make a motion to accept the bid from Letourneau Civil Construction in the amount of $129,324.25. To repair the Old Pump Bridge.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Moving right along. Approve certification of compliance from town road and bridge standards.
This is, Peter, just for your reference.
Thank you.
We have, every year we have to do this to be in compliance with V-Trans and the state in order to get grants. So this form, this certification form states that we're abiding by the standards. And the next one, the same thing, that financial plan, every year we will have to sign these for any state grants.
Just saying we certified our roads. all
Yep.
compliant with different
Yes, yep.
requirements.
And we're up to the town road and bridge standards.
Great.
So it's another motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the certification of compliance for town road and bridge standards.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
You'll all three need to sign that one.
All right, that's enough. of the signing.
Sorry, there's more, one more.
One more, we have to prove the certification of compliance. Okay, approve the annual financial plan, town highways.
And so what happened here is, I have Brian, he has kind of walked me through it last year a little bit, but there is a financial plan that he will do up. I would rather him. And what he does, him do it than myself, is each class, like class 1, class 2, class 3 road, he'll put in a certain amount and then the estimated dollar amount of what state funds were allocated for those specific roads. And then he also, I don't know if you guys, do you guys have
Yeah.
this one as well? Yeah. So, and then he goes on to that you have to add in like all of our reserves, all of the grants and loans that we get. And then he actually, this year is something new. It'll be the bond. So it's more of our financial plan all in a nutshell.
Regarding.
Yep.
highways.
Yes. Yep. Yep. And so
Yeah, I
even
wonder
down
if that's
below,
like
you'll
if
see that.
It's just weird to do before the budget passes.
It is, but in order to submit, well, I was gonna say in order to
This is
submit
still-
these,
Because if we were to say, yes, this is gonna be our plan, our budget fails, I'm not saying that
yeah.
we would cut the road, but like, it's,
Right,
everything has to be on the table.
We're saying
Sure,
yes.
sure,
We
sure.
haven't actually agreed to anything.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I don't know what happens in that case. I will definitely look into that because I didn't think of that.
Is this expenditures
But the reserves would still be the same, the grants and loans.
Yep.
Would be the same.
Yep, and the bond bank will
the
be,
Same. It's just the town tax funds.
yeah.
What is that? What is that $1.8 million town tax fund, you know?
That's how much the highway budget.
So that's the actual highway budget.
I think it is.
Yeah, if you think about the, like that 295,000.
Yeah, yeah, all
Plus the
those things.
salary, plus the.
1.8.
all the
Mhm.
things, you know.
That's more than half the budget.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
It should be.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It usually, the highway usually is.
So what's the 94 to 70 of class 2? Is that what we expect to spend this year on our class 2 roads, on our class 3 roads?
This is income, so I believe this could be the income from we get money from the state of Vermont for our class 2 roads.
Somewhere between 150 and 170.
Yeah,
something.
and I think this here, Brian kind of split it up and maybe he
That makes
estimated.
sense, 'cause she said one.
Yep, yep. Yep,
Great, thank you very much.
I don't know what you want to
We
do.
do.
I don't even know what it said. I would make a motion to.
You all gotta
to
sign that one
accept
too,
the annual
sorry.
Financial plan for town highways.
I will second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
And Brian's on all this stuff
Yep,
and we get audited and we look great and Brian makes it
Yep.
great, and so.
Yep.
We trust Brian.
yes.
And then we go, oh, yeah, of course.
We knew that.
No, I do. I mean, it does mean a lot to me, right? Like knowing that Tyler went and looked at that
Right,
bid,
right.
that means a lot. Knowing that
That's
Brian's
everything.
looked at it. And,
Yes.
worked with whoever.
And having people that we feel like, oh yeah, if Brian said we're good, then we're good. And if
Yeah.
Tyler says, yep, that's a good bid, and a good company, then.
Right.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Exactly. Next is select board updates. I thought that you'd be interested in the RPC meeting last night, because you'll be seeing updated bylaw from the, because we have, the draft was finalized. And this final draft of the RPC bylaws get passed to the municipalities after town meeting for comments. And the municipality has 30 days to make any comments and what it thinks about the bylaws and the bylaw changes they might have made. After which, although the timelines might be tight, for final adoption by the board of the RPC could happen in April, if not, then it's May. But the planning, you guys will, the town staff will be seeing the bylaws and see if it makes any impact to you. The other interesting thing is we had a long and updated discussion on Act 189 and updating their ecos plan. And the status for the future land use map and housing targets, including focus on environmental justice populations, which is the primary focus. And through the spring of 2025, the RPC is going to be looking at the environmental benefits and burdens category. So the goal is to start the adoption process, which also has to go to the towns eventually, and that'll be in October 2025 to adopt in May of 2026. And the RPC is currently, they now have the housing target from the state, and they're going to work to disaggregate this to the municipalities. And a large part of this discussion was on the process for the maps, because the Land Use Review Board has to accept your maps for growth before that happens, before the maps get accepted. And they don't want to really disaggregate for the housing targets until they really get really good feedback on the maps, because these are for your growth centers.
Mhm.
And because people did a big gulp, especially on the high end for Chittenden County in terms of number of houses. I mean, that was really a long discussion last night. It was emphasized that these are aspirational. A policy tool, especially since the number of units for Chittenden County is the equivalent of the entire state average over the last decade, for 2010 to 2020.
So meaning what
That's
they're
crazy.
setting the goal to for just this county is as many as has been built in Vermont in 10 years.
Oh, on average, each year for 10 years, the entire state.
Hmm.
And that's 1,200. When they did homes for us, the first homes for all in Chittenden County, they actually hit 1,000 once. But otherwise, Chittenden County has hit about 800 a year in homes 2.0. And so there's a low target and high target. High target, they said, is very high, very probably never even come close to it, even though it's a nice number. They think that if it's a push, we might get the 1,200 a year at Chittenden County through 2030, because that's 7,301 houses during that time period. The high is is 10,537, which is quite high. Now, 2050, they figured we could hit that calculation, because if you do 15,783, which is 600 per year, that likely able to hit that in Chittenden County. But the high is 47,407, which is about 1,800 a year. Very high, considering water and wastewater is a big deal throughout the entire county. And the labor, in fact, is because the other big factor is the labor force is not there to build them. And that's another, besides the water and wastewater issue. And we happen to have Jeff Carr and he does the things for the state. And he said markets have not been in balance since the 80s anyway. I mean, where you could have, like 5% occupancy, there's still, you got 5% room, vacancy, yeah. And so, the question, everybody said, well, what happens when we don't meet these targets? And basically they said, right now, there's no stick. The idea is to inform policy at the state level of how they're gonna fund any of this stuff.
Mm.
Because,
Yeesh.
people are gonna be looking for wastewater money, people are gonna be looking for water money, people are gonna look for housing money. And the state's not getting that kind of money either.
I was gonna say they should probably fund it with money.
Yep. And then, we also talked about what's happening at the federal level and some of the grants. They had a bunch of grants that were in flux. There's a good chunk of them that came back and said, yeah, okay, right now we're still there. but there's some that they have not heard back on. And they're thinking that the federal transportation funding should be okay because it's a legislative formula, but you never know.
Sorry, which funding should be okay?
The transportation funding coming from the feds to the state and to
Okay.
the RPCs. Because it is a legislative formula. On the other hand,
But
they.
rules don't,
Nothing
nothing
keeps-
matters.
Nothing matters,
Nothing's real
right.
anymore.
Right, so that's what I have as updates. But I figured I better pass them on, but because some things you're gonna see from the RPC anyway. But it's
Wow.
kind of spooky.
Thank you for, I just sort of glaze over the fact that you also spend
Right.
so much time with dealing with the RPC, so thank you for representing us there. And bringing us all that stuff back and paying attention to it, and remembering it.
Yeah, I mean, because we had to, because I'm also chair of the bylaws committee. Of the RPC, and we had to really work on that because everything that said DEI or equity had to be purged, including the equity, because we have it, it was an equity advisory committee, but it's also funded by federal money.
Mm,
So all that had to go. It is now a public participation and outreach.
geez.
I have been,
That's an RPC.
Yeah,
I have been thinking about, and I'm not trying to start trouble or get into controversial stuff, but
Right.
I have been
Mhm.
wondering if we
Mhm.
should be renaming one of our
Mhm.
committees.
Mm-hmm.
Something
Yep.
doesn't mean I
I
one
know.
1000% support what they do in their mission, but I also don't want to put those people at risk
Mhm.
or
That's
our
right.
town at risk from getting
Mhm.
some of the vital stuff that we need.
Mhm.
And those are some things that companies, I work for a company that the only thing that they do is get grants from the federal government. And so they had to go in and they had to do some really hard things
Mm.
that employees are not happy about, but their mission is to keep us employed, make sure we get these contracts, and it's, people are
Yeah.
making some really hard decisions.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering if we,
That's a good,
that's something to talk about because we
Mhm.
do rely on federal grants, federal money.
Do we realize Jericho, town of Jericho Ryan federal? grants?
Oh, well, that's transportation dollars.
well, I'm thinking about things like this, right? I know I actually don't know where we're at with it, to be honest with you. The Old Red Mill, right? That's a grant, it's a federal grant.
Yeah.
I don't know what the likelihood of it is. I don't
think
even know
that
where
was
we're at.
going,
with
I
it.
think that.
It's probably gone anyway, but
It's
just
gone.
It is.
hypothetically, right?
Right.
Like, let's say we were right on the fence for it. And who knows if the person in charge of that has a mandate when you're going through and approving grants, you're gonna go to their website, you're gonna go to that town's website and you're gonna look for these types of
Mhm,
things
mhm.
and I don't know.
That's right.
It's extremely feasible, like it feels almost likely.
Yeah.
That would be part of somebody's role whose job it is to approve those grants.
Mhm.
Well, in fact, it's not just equity, but it's the word climate. And resilience, because our neighbor works for NOAA. And a lot of NOAA's jobs deal with climate and climate research and things like that. So all that is now scrubbed and those people are gone, or going to be gone.
Yeah, so I don't really want to talk about it tonight, but it might be something that we need to
We need to
seriously consider.
Yeah.
about it and think about what things are in the crosshairs and what
Yeah.
we're gonna do.
That was my only update, honestly.
Yeah, I know.
That.
Peter, you got anything?
Something written down at home, but. something that don't say now.
Paula, you have updates, other than the fact you're going to be gone?
Yeah, yes. That's it. And I hope it's still the March 5th timeframe, but we'll see, because she's back in the hospital.
Oh, no.
So we'll see.
The plan is still to get her here to Vermont at some point, right?
Yes.
As soon as possible, probably.
Yes.
Yeah. That's scary.
All right,
Yes.
next is signing the warrant and approving the minute, of course, he's signing, well, and then, while he's signing, then I don't want to signing to do.
Speedy Gonzalez.
We have the minutes of 2/6/25. And I didn't see anything.
I didn't either. I read them last night and I didn't see anything.
Yeah,
So they're good?
they're good.
Wow,
Yeah, I know.
all right.
Motion to approve the minutes of, what was the date?
February sixth,
February 6th.
2025.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All righty, warrants.
Do we have an
And-
executive session?
We really don't. Let's see, do I have anything? Nothing.
I have one thing, I guess, but it should be a very, very, very brief executive session.
Okay, call it.
Make a motion to go into executive session because premature, for reasons of personnel and legal, because premature disclosure of the information to be detrimental to parties involved. And I sure hope that Peter learns that language.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you
Have a good
all.
night.